Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into some pretty big news from Microsoft. It's got everyone talking about the future of computing. And you guessed it, it's all about quantum.
Yeah, you're right to highlight this because it feels like we've been hearing about this quantum revolution that's just around the corner, like forever.
Right.
So what's different now?
Right.
We've got this Motley Fool article saying that Microsoft says they've made a major breakthrough with a new quantum computing chip.
Oh, wow.
They're calling it Majorana 1.
Majorana 1. Okay.
Yeah.
But before we get into the specifics of this new chip, I think for anyone who's, not totally familiar with quantum computing.
Sure.
Can we just take a step back? What makes these quantum computers so different from the computers we use every single day?
Well, it really comes down to how they process information. So like your laptop or your phone, it uses bits, which can be a 0 or a 1.
Right.
But a quantum computer uses qubits,
Okay.
which can be a 0, 1, or both at the same time.
So at the same time.
Yeah, it's called superposition. And it's kind of mind-bending, but that's where the real power comes from.
So instead of just switching between 0 and 1,
Yeah.
a qubit can explore both possibilities at the same time.
Exactly. Like imagine a computer that can explore every single path in a maze simultaneously.
Wow.
That's the kind of parallel processing power we're talking about.
So that would make them capable of solving problems that, a normal computer just couldn't handle, right?
Yeah, problems that would take our current computers millions of years to solve. Things like simulating the behavior of molecules to design new drugs, or breaking the encryption that keeps our online data safe.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. So how does Microsoft's Majorana 1 chip fit into this?
Well, the article says it addresses a really critical issue in quantum computing, and that's instability.
Instability. What does that even mean when we're talking about quantum computers?
Qubits are super fragile. You can almost think of them as like tiny, delicate snowflakes.
Oh, wow.
Any little vibration or change in temperature can disrupt them.
So how do you even build a working computer with these things?
Right, that's the challenge. This instability leads to errors, and it's one of the biggest roadblocks to building reliable quantum computers.
So how did Microsoft get around this with this new Majorana 1 chip?
Well, they say they invented a new material called a topoconductor.
A topoconductor. I mean, that sounds like something straight out of Star Trek. What is that?
Yeah, it does sound kind of sci-fi. But think of it like a special highway for these qubits, right?
Okay.
Instead of being exposed to all sorts of interference, the qubits can travel along this protected path, shielded from all those disturbances that can cause errors.
So by creating this really stable environment, they think they can build bigger and more reliable quantum computers.
Exactly. And this could have massive implications for lots of different industries, like cloud computing, for instance.
Okay.
This article suggests that quantum computing could revolutionize how we store and process data in the cloud, leading to huge cost reductions, especially in fields that rely heavily on data like AI.
Right. And AI is already a huge focus for Microsoft.
Oh, absolutely.
The article mentioned they're projected to spend something like $80 billion on AI data centers just this year.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
So if quantum computing can make those data centers even a little bit more efficient, that's a massive amount of money saved.
Yeah, absolutely. But we do need to be realistic here.
Okay.
The article makes it clear that this Majorana 1 chip is just a prototype.
Right.
We're still a ways off from seeing quantum computers that businesses or, regular people can actually buy.
So it's exciting, but we shouldn't expect to see quantum computers in our homes anytime soon.
Not quite. In the short term, it seems like Microsoft's growth will probably be driven by their current investments in AI, meeting that growing demand for AI solutions.
Right. But this announcement from Microsoft, it seems like it's really got the attention of investors. The article even mentioned that their stock price has taken a bit of a dip recently.
It has. Apparently, their CEO recently predicted an oversupply of AI data centers in the near future, and that spooked some investors.
Oh, I see.
That, combined with the general market volatility, has led to, I think it was a 15% drop in Microsoft's stock price.
So what we have here is kind of like a tension between the long-term potential of quantum computing and the more immediate, short-term uncertainties of the market.
Exactly.
That's an investor to do.
Well, that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And that's exactly what we're going to dive into in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, so we've got this quantum computing thing that could totally change the game. But what about right now?
Yeah, the article gets into some of Microsoft's financials.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, some of it went right over my head.
Let's break it down then. So despite this recent dip, their stock still has a trailing price-to-earnings ratio,
Okay.
or PE ratio of 32.
Okay, so back up for a second. For those of us who don't spend all day looking at stock prices,
Sure.
what is a PE ratio? And why does it even matter?
It's basically a way to measure how much investors are willing to pay for each dollar of the company's earnings. So a higher PE ratio usually means investors are pretty optimistic about the company's future growth.
Gotcha. So is 32 good or bad?
Well, it's higher than average for the S&P 500, which is around 30 right now, but you have to look at the whole picture.
Okay.
Microsoft's revenue is growing at a pretty solid 12% year over year, and their operating income is growing even faster at 17%.
Wow. That sounds pretty healthy.
Yeah, it is.
So does this mean this higher PE ratio could be justified because of Microsoft's potential, especially with AI?
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable conclusion. If their growth keeps up at this rate, fueled by both their current AI stuff and this quantum leap, their PE ratio might actually look even better in a few years.
Interesting. So for investors who are looking long-term, this dip in Microsoft's stock price, it might actually be a good time to buy.
It's definitely a possibility. At least that's what this Motley Fool article seems to suggest. For people who believe in Microsoft's strategy and see the potential of quantum computing, now might be the time to buy.
But of course, like with any investment, you got to do your research and know how much risk you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Don't make decisions based on what you hear on a podcast, right?
Exactly. We're just trying to give you some things to think about, not financial advice.
Right, of course.
Mm.
But let's zoom out a bit here. Think bigger picture. Beyond Microsoft and their stock price, what could this quantum leap mean for the world?
Well, the potential applications are pretty mind-blowing. I mean, imagine faster drug discovery. We could have cures for diseases that are, incurable right now.
Wow.
Or imagine AI that's not just smarter, but more efficient, too.
Okay.
It could help us solve really complex problems like climate change or come up with sustainable energy solutions.
I mean, it's hard to even imagine everything this technology could do. The article talks about how it could impact lots of industries.
Mm-hmm.
But what about on a personal level?
That's a great question.
How could quantum computing directly affect our everyday lives?
Yeah, think about your own job, your own interests. Could quantum computing change how things are done in your field? Could it even create entirely new jobs that we haven't even thought of yet?
It really makes you wonder what the world will be like in 10 or 20 years. If this technology lives up to its potential.
And that's what makes it so exciting, right? We're not just talking about a faster computer or a better app.
Right.
It's a completely different way of thinking about and interacting with the world around us.
It almost feels like we're standing on the edge of a new frontier.
Yeah.
Full of possibilities, but also a lot of unknowns.
Exactly. And that sense of exploration, that's what makes this field so captivating.
I have to admit, it's kind of overwhelming to think about the scale of all this.
Right.
Where do we even begin to understand how to use such a transformative technology?
Well, I think a good place to start is just to stay informed. Keep asking questions. Keep talking about the kind of future we want to create.
Yeah, that's a great point. This deep dive has definitely given us a lot to think about. Quantum computing is more than just some new technology. It's something that could change society as we know it.
Exactly. And like with any powerful technology, it's up to us to make sure it's used for good. That it benefits everyone.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from the nitty-gritty details of how quantum computers work to their potential impact on investors and society as a whole. But I feel like we're just scratching the surface.
Absolutely. This conversation is just getting started, and we want to hear from you, our listeners. What are your thoughts on all this? What excites you about quantum computing? What worries you?
Let's keep this conversation going. Share your thoughts, your hopes, your fears, whatever, on our social media. Let's explore this uncharted territory of quantum computing together.
It's kind of wild to think that we could be seeing a technological revolution on the scale of, the internet, right?
It really is. It feels like we're at the very beginning of something huge. And what's so interesting to me is that we're not just talking about faster computers or better algorithms.
Right. It's way more fundamental than that.
It's like a whole different way of thinking about computing itself.
Yeah.
And something else that stood out to me in the article was how Microsoft is talking about this.
Oh, yeah.
They're not just saying, hey, we built a better quantum computer. They're talking about, democratizing this technology.
That's a really important point. They're saying they want to make quantum computing available to everyone through the cloud.
Right.
So researchers, businesses, even just regular people could use it to tackle problems that seemed impossible before.
So it's not just about Microsoft being the king of quantum or something. They want to create this whole ecosystem where everyone can benefit from it.
Exactly. And that's where things get really exciting. Imagine quantum AI helping us develop personalized medicine, design eco-friendly cities, maybe even unlock the secrets of the universe.
It's pretty amazing to think about.
Mhm.
But we have to remember that any powerful technology has its downsides too,
Oh, for sure.
like ethical concerns, economic disparities, the possibility of it being misused. We need to be aware of all that as this technology develops.
Absolutely. We need to have these conversations about the impact quantum computing will have on society, make sure its development is aligned with our values, that it contributes to a more just and sustainable future.
So for you, the listener, even if you're not a scientist or a tech person, this is something that will probably affect your life in a big way in the coming years.
Yeah. And this deep dive we've done today, it's really just scratching the surface. There's so much more to explore and learn.
So stay curious, keep asking questions.
Because in the end, technology is only as good as the people who use it, right?
It's up to all of us to shape the future of quantum computing, to make sure it benefits all of humanity.
Well, this has been a fascinating conversation.
It really has.
We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of quantum computing.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking those big, important questions.